I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So our meeting is called to order, and I think in the absence of Megan, Sandra has agreed to take some minutes for us, and she could do the roll call.
Okay, thank you. Sarah Menard.
Here.
Dina Kreitman. Here. Jan Franz is not, but he called to tell me that he couldn't make it. Don Roush. Here. Kelly Fowler. Here. Laura Oliver. Here. Jack Ketting, who's a liaison, and Tom Hooper, who's a liaison, and Gary Smith, who is our aldermanic liaison. And so, Candy Mayhearn here. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And you should have in front of you, I think, does everybody have copies of the minutes?
Yes.
I've purchased some. Minutes from the last meeting, which was in October of 2018. And at that time, we heard from Sandra, her tourism report. And I think that was all stuff that we know. And Sandra and Martin both told us about some wildlife, not fishing wildlife, recreational and wildlife use of the property on the other side of the levee. And at that time, we talked about the Missouri Life TV. And I don't think we need to read those all out.
No. Did you put the part about the planning for the bicentennial?
We did talk about that, and we're going to talk about that again tonight. So when everyone has had a chance to review the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I make a motion. Okay, Donna?
Okay, and we also,
Well,
we're sort of ahead of ourselves because we did not approve the agenda, but.
I make a motion.
We're so cold that we can't think.
Can't, we are frozen in time. So there's a motion on the table to approve the agenda. Give a second for that.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, there's also a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Any second for that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now I think we're back on track. Robert, are you a citizen that would like to be heard?
Not now.
Okay.
Let's buy us time.
The mayor lets him talk it into.
That's right.
Okay.
He's grandfathered in.
And
Whatever he wants.
No.
He's earned it.
I have no comment about being grandfathered in. Anybody else wish to be heard? Okay. Sandra, any
Okay.
news for us? Probably lots.
Yes. So you have on the back of your agenda for this evening is a color printout indicating the last 5 years in terms of visitor numbers. And the big yellow spike in August of 2017 was, as we all recall, that was the big spike from the eclipse. And interestingly enough, we had a huge spike in phone calls during the previous months and that month as well. I was going through all the data. This is more interesting, but phone calls I think is kind of interesting too. It's a big spike there. So you can see that in December, the actual number was 850 guests, slightly down from last December, but for the 5-year average, it's right in line with what we typically have for December. I think it's also interesting to see that consistently across the board, October is generally our highest year. It used to be that, or our highest month. It used to be that, that August, as we all might expect, with Genevieve, was the highest month, but now, I think probably largely due to the winery traffic and, are extending our shoulder seasons more than just Memorial Day to Labor Day like we used to be, and so October is consistently higher than almost all the other months. And then May, as you will also see in those bar charts, is also high. And of course, as we all know, May is the highest month that we receive student tours through the historic district. So I'm sure that will continue to trend that way. But that's what accounts for a lot of that traffic in May. So I'd just like to, this time of year, we're doing a lot of data capturing and looking at our, especially all of our social media marketing and our responses in search engine marketing and social media, both on Instagram, which we're have been participating in for a while now, and also, of course, our Facebook presence.
What's happening in November that makes it a little, that's made it kind of spike up higher than previous years, with the exception of 2016?
Right, so November seems to be completely dependent on weather. And probably that's why December was down a little bit too, because it was our coldest December in a long, long time, just like January. But
And it probably has to do with where Thanksgiving falls too. Sometimes there's an extra Thursday in the month.
I had more foot traffic in November in the shop than I did in December. I think everybody's winding down with personal Christmas stuff. They got their shopping done early. And I had really good foot traffic in November.
that's an interesting observation.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think we have a formal data response to that, but I think anecdotally is important, to note that too.
And the cookie crumb trail is that time too.
Yeah.
I think on the Small Business Saturday thing also, people that use the Square, I get like these little tips and things from Square, and they were saying that the trend is people are getting their Christmas shopping done in November so they can enjoy the holidays more. And it was exactly true. That I had gotten that little tip in October, and that's exactly what happened.
That's pretty cool when predictions
Yeah,
play out.
it did. That's what they said the national trend was, so, and it was right on the mark.
Wow, that's cool. So that observation, as well as it would be interesting to see the observation on Thanksgiving and the number of weeks in the month, the number of Saturdays in the month,
Right.
Thursdays in the month, probably has an impact on that as well.
Was this October rainy or something? Worst October in 5 years? I don't remember. I was looking myself. Just looking at this, it doesn't. It's down from all previous years.
Yeah, so I would have to look at the weather to
Do you track that?
Well, we put comments on the guest log if it was rainy or if we had to close because of snow or some things like that. Candy, do you have any recollection or Kelly, as far as October? Remember any, any dip or anything in the traffic?
October was good for me as well, but that was because Rural Heritage Days was right down by me.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me out considerably.
Yes.
October was I think it was a pretty nice month weather-wise. In fact, I remember having to get an air conditioning unit because my other one that wasn't very old had gone out because it hit 90 degrees in October that one weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad weather month, but then, I had Rural Heritage Days like this, so that helped me out a lot.
Well, and we can't just judge everything on how many people come into the Welcome
Right.
Center, because if it's really nice weather, and
Right.
you might just decide to.
They're wandering around.
Right.
Not everybody comes in here.
Right,
Yeah.
They figure probably 1 in 4 probably actually come in here, 1 in 5, 1 in 4.
Uh-huh.
So maybe nicer weather means that,
And people
They're not
did
as
say
likely.
that, they were, you know, it was so hot in July and in August that they were just waiting for that cooler weather to come and walk around and look at the history and go to the shops and whatever, because this is a walking town. And it's, a lot of it depends on the weather. But I'm so kind of out of the way, you can't go by everything with me either, because that's what I had World Heritage Days by me.
yeah. I know that, you know, again, anecdotally, but in terms of weather, we had a really rainy spring. It
Yes,
seemed like it would
cold.
not stop.
Yeah, and it was cold.
So, that's for your own records. We had an excellent turnout for the Holiday Christmas Festival. If you'd have been here a few weeks ago, the tree would have been right here. And we're getting a new tree for next year, and we're also getting new lights on the tree that's in our courtyard here.
10,000.
Yeah, 10,000
10,000
lights.
lights are going on this year.
Wow.
Good, that'll be an improvement.
So, and speaking of Christmas in particular, I've had a number of merchants who have heard about the change with Citizens Electric and the fact that in Christmas 2019, they won't be able to put the, like the stars and snowflakes and decorations on the power poles, which they have graciously done for us in the past. And it's not that they don't want to do it anymore, but it has to do with a safety regulation that's actually been in place for a while, and they've, you know, like continued to do it, but they have guidelines that they have to meet to and be able to say, we're not putting any linemen in danger and we're following and conforming to these rules. So there was a meeting with the mayor and Citizens Electric, Martin, and also the chairperson for the Christmas Festival to talk about this and the potential impact. And come on over, Jack.
Come on over, Jack.
Sorry.
It's
That's all right.
So, would you, during this part of my report, I know there are others who may have feelings on this, so if anyone, we're talking about the Christmas decorations, so if anyone wants to have a little discussion, open a discussion on this topic.
I understand citizens have to do what they have to do. I mean,
Yes.
it's a real safety issue, but I really like those snowflakes.
Me too. I'm really, really disappointed. And I feel like we have to come up with some place to use them. I mean, somewhere.
So does the city own those lights?
The city does own those lights, and Citizens was mounting them onto the poles. So there's been a proposal that maybe we approach the merchants about mounting them onto their building. And, you know, then of course you would also have to absorb the cost of plugging it in, and it would be on your, I almost said insurance, on your electrical usage. Yeah. And then there was also a suggestion about maybe adding lights on the decorative poles, not attaching to them, but just wrapping them so that there would be some additional lights. I don't know if that came up during your meeting or if that was, okay.
Well, everybody's got to just think, we're going to have to do it different. The big light, the snowflakes and all that stuff, they're not going up. So we have to adjust and just change is hard, but we can do it.
How do we make the town a little more Christmassy? I mean, decorations in the windows and,
Yeah, that's what we got to look at.
you know,
Competitions?
well, I think they've had that in the past, but
We have
especially
had window contests at different times throughout the year. I
This
don't
would
think
be a
we've
good
had
time to talk to the chamber
The
person
chamber-
here.
The chamber used to do Christmas window decorating contests.
What about like you do at Halloween, there was some talk about doing something like that at Christmas time.
Yeah, we could do that.
the problem is getting the participation.
Right.
When we first started the Scarecrow Spectacular, we had probably 40 people participate.
Mhm.
Now it's down to like less than 20,
Right.
between 15 and 20, depending.
But it always looks really good.
Yeah, it really does.
And you know, the more's not always better.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I thought it was.
I just don't, for Christmas time, I just don't want one area, say, Main Street, for example, to feel like they're left out, because they do feel that way during the Scarecrow Spectacular, but they have an opportunity to participate too. I mean, that's just really kind of on them.
Mhm.
So I think that would be a great idea. I like the decorating the poles with extra lights, but I don't think all those poles have the access for a plug-in. Some poles do have plug-ins, but not all of them.
The other thing too is you have people that, I mean, we're a historical town, so you might have modern 90s decorations mixed in with traditional greenery like I do, and so how do you get something that kind of looks uniform throughout without you know what I'm saying, without there being so much
I
difference?
think you have to have a decorating committee.
Unless someone's
Thought
gonna
there was
get,
one.
unless
Was
someone's
one,
gonna
what?
get together like they
There
used
was
to
one.
years ago to make the wreaths out of the chicken wire and the fresh pine and
Uh-huh.
stuff, that they're not gonna be conformed to what you guys traditionally do at your historic properties.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that any individual person is gonna take the time to do that, like the decorating committee used to do.
Mhm.
And not all the historic properties do it the same either. I know, Donna, you use natural material. The Gibord uses natural material, the Old Duke uses artificial.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
different, I think, even across the historic properties.
That's what I was saying, and I use natural, but that's just a choice, nobody's making me do it, it's just that,
Right.
it's I have an older house, so I just wanted it to look.
Yeah, perhaps some classes in how to use natural materials earlier in the season, not right before Christmas.
Well,
You gotta start on that,
yeah, we gotta start on
like
this
in
this summer.
October.
Yeah.
No, this summer, we gotta be thinking about this, because
We need to do a video and just post it out there so people can watch it when they can't sleep or something.
I got my wine
Forest
open
has access to get
from,
it, you know, to tell everybody.
Christmas tree
you know,
farm
maybe
for $1 a
people
foot.
at cost.
or it was cedar roping actually.
Well, and when we used to do it before with, and Jan is not here, but he could give you a great example of it. You know, it was like Jack and Bev Dunsey and all them, they had their own committee, and it was probably 20 people. And we would get together and we'd put these wreaths together, and it was tedious and it was time consuming. And I think,
We
Elaine-
still do that here at the
Yeah.
Welcome Center for the wreaths here, and then members of the Foundation for Restoration are the volunteers. So they make the ones for the wreaths up
with
at
the chicken wire and all that
There's
stuff.
no chicken wire, they just use a
It's
wreath
the
form.
same, it's the same deal. It's just a reform, it's the
Isn't
same thing.
Lawrence the head?
Natural.
Isn't Lawrence? the-
Different thing that you're
That's
thinking
downtown
of.
St. John.
Yeah.
Okay, see,
But I mean,
always-
I know that, Elaine, Mooney, her dad would provide us the pine or the cedar, and, I mean, we would go out to their farm and on Sea Road, and we would bring it in by truck and trailer. And, I mean, they were pretty, but then, again, who's gonna,
Would you
Take the
say that there
time.
were 20 of them that you were doing at that time?
oh gosh, no, we did one for, we did the slabs for every one of those posts in town.
Oh, and now we've replaced that. with-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
but
by
I
the way,
thought,
are not good. Those aren't good either. Those need to be kind of done as well.
I think they look better.
Well, I think last year they looked better than they had previously, but it's just a matter of time. I mean, it's just, you know,
Way to get everybody together.
It
and
is.
They're just- they're
project,
not.
Maybe grow some camaraderie and,
Yeah.
you know, everybody be responsible for making the wreath for their own.
Well, then did the city hang them on those poles?
I believe they did, right, Martin? I'm looking at your, the city hung the wreaths on the post, or the swags on the post this past Christmas.
Yes.
No, I mean.
They have
you guys-
always
I
done
mean,
that.
the real
I mean,
ones, when you did the real
Oh,
ones.
oh no, the committee that made them would go up, and we would meet at 8 o'clock at night, and we would hang.
There's like 100 poles.
There's 92, is there 92 lamp posts, I think? I think it's 92.
Oh. I mean,
Yeah, close to 100, yeah. I think there's 92,
which I think would look great, but you have to get people the manpower to do it.
yeah.
You know, one of the problems is you have to give up sufficient time to have a risk of somebody running into them or hitting their head on or whatever, so you gotta be 10 feet off the ground.
Can you put an ad in the paper and ask for even people from the community to volunteer?
Wait, what are you talking about, has to be 10 feet off the
Like
ground?
a flag.
Oh, the flag, yeah, I don't know that we were we talking about?
No, we weren't talking about the flags, but
Flags.
that, we also,
He
all
just asked
those
if we
flags.
can hang the flags.
No,
The lights, the snowflakes.
The flags on the,
Yes, we did.
On the light posts. The
Yeah,
ones that are
light
on the
posts.
light posts.
So the city put up the swags and citizens put up the snowflakes that were lighted.
yeah.
And so what you're saying is that citizen also put up the banners, Martin?
Yes, but the banners also were in the.
They're not going up either.
They,
They have
so they can't go
Right.
in.
Yeah. I mean, nothing on the poles.
So nothing can.
They're in the danger zone.
They're in the danger zone. There's
Too
only
close.
about 4 or 5 poles and they're out by City Hall that you can put a
Too
banner
close
on.
to the,
Yes,
too
downtown, you're
close
not
to the
gonna see
power.
any
Yeah.
snowflakes, decorations on any of the poles, anywhere.
How do we get it to be a little more,
That's done.
use our history?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
it-
agree
it
with
is.
this.
then maybe we should encourage them to bury the power lines. Maybe take the poles away.
Well,
There
but
you go.
then either way, you don't have a pole to put them on, so.
Back to square one.
Well, we have really neat poles. I mean,
The lamppost.
The lamp
The lamp
posts,
posts,
yeah.
they're neat. Now we just gotta figure out how we decorate,
Consistent.
That's what we need to decorate those little lamp posts.
and the town, the
Right, the
houses.
houses, you know, if you go down there, even right now, you go down on Main Street, there's still some Christmas lights up in some of the businesses down there. The inn down here, on that white fence, that greenery that goes up there that Jan puts up, that's great. You know, we need more of that. And down there at the city, at the park down there where the
Main Street Park.
Main Street Park there, we need to do a better job. We could put some Christmas trees down there in that park, you know, so.
So we,
I just don't know how you encourage the business owners to incur the expense to do that. I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, that's the tricky
I
part.
agree with that.
I mean, but there were Christmas,
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people
a
have.
lot of people are putting it up. I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be an easy sell to put the snowflake up on the side of the building,
no.
you know. so-
No, that would be a hard sell, yeah.
I think so.
But Bob, were there not Christmas decorations in the businesses downtown? Yes.
Not all businesses do it, some do. I know Kelly, you obviously have a lot of Christmas decorations, but not everybody does it. And there are homes downtown too, and some decorate, some don't. Especially when you're on the main drag is when we've got to, you know, kind of.
I think the historic homes need to be consistent on how they're, I don't know.
Well, that's when you start coming up with standards and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
and then
with
people-
the real greenery and the little candle lights in the windows or something, you know, to make them stand out somehow. But
You're right, we need a committee.
I don't know how we get people.
We need a decorator.
If I were you, I'd make sure Susan O'Donnell's on that committee.
We need a decorator.
She's got some properties down on that end of town that she'd probably be interested in, and she needs to be on that committee.
Okay, all right,
Really.
good idea.
And she loves that kind of stuff.
We need a committee. Christmas committee.
And I think Annette Rolfe will be on all over that, because she is fired up
Yes.
about
So she
doing
would
exactly
appreciate-
what Bob's talking about. She wants to see a
Yes.
uniform. She wants it to look, in her words, we're like a little gingerbread town.
Mhm.
All right,
So I have a question. real
Well,
quick before
yes.
we move on.
Yes.
Is this committee in charge of making the committee, or is Annette's committee in charge of making the committee?
We will, I think the best thing to do is, the way I understand it, Annette has gotten a hold of, talked to Toby at the paper. Paper's supposed to put an article out about the change with citizens, and the decorations are gonna come off the poles, so everybody's informed, and then we're gonna go from there. So, just so everybody's on the same page.
Contact City Hall if you're interested in participating on the committee.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Oh.
but
No, I actually think you should probably contact
Have some-
Annette, because
Annette would be the one,
if she's
Annette is,
undertaking it under the holiday Christmas festival.
but she just can't do all the work. It's
Right.
just like, she's got.
She's good at getting worker bees, she knows how to.
Oh, I know that,
put people in.
but she does, and, yeah, but that was my bigger concern, was selling it to her, and we sold this whole thing to her lock, stock, and barrel. She's excited about doing something different.
Is there any way we could get outlets on those cedar posts to plug in lights?
I can't answer that
I think
question.
there's gonna be a meeting
Outlets,
with
power
citizens
outlets.
about that.
There's power
I
outlets
mean,
on the
there's
citizens'
already
pole.
power there, it shouldn't be
Yeah,
that
I think that's
difficult.
what they're gonna try to do.
Some of them have power outlets.
You mean the light poles?
The like,
The
the
light
cedar
poles.
posts, some of them have outlets where you can plug in. Not very many of them, and I only know that through the Scarecrow.
I was gonna say, I don't remember.
There's a
seeing
couple
that.
of them, there's not very, and when I say couple, like maybe less than 5.
I think Annette was gonna bring that up to Ron Klein to see if that's
You
a
would think it-
possibility.
Be
The city.
fairly easy,
The city puts those poles together for the
Yeah.
lights.
yeah.
There must have been some kind of a pole there where they put one of the cedar poles that used to have electricity of some sort, and when they, replaced it, they were able to.
Well, they all
Well,
have.
they gotta
electricity
have,
running
they
through
gotta
the
have
center
electricity,
pole.
they got lights.
Because they have lights on.
Because they all have electric lights on.
But some of them have outlets.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Outlet.
Without the
Plug
outlet,
something in.
yeah.
I don't know which ones, I don't remember, but there are, I think there's about 3 to 5 of them somewhere.
So what do you got, 90 more?
I'm pretty sure there's not each one.
Okay.
And not everyone has to have lights, greenery,
Right,
some with
Yeah.
lights.
yes.
And I think we can encourage the shop owners to put some lights up. We're gonna do a better job here. This place here is gonna be the focal point. When people come right down the main drag, they're gonna see this, and this is just gonna be, wow. That Christmas tree out here with
Like
10,000.
Chevy Chase's
The
Christmas
Griswolds.
vacation.
Well, let's do this. I mean, I will probably have occasion, Annette lives right up by me. I'll visit with Annette about it.
That's perfect.
And we'll.
Person to person.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
They have thousands of lights they can donate.
Oh, and I think acquiring lights, I don't think is a problem,
Yeah.
but acquiring probably muscle to do it. But I'll talk to Annette, we'll see what we can do about putting together a committee or soliciting volunteers or doing something. And we'll go from there, because, she lives right there by it.
And it's gonna take us a while to put 30,000 lights on the street right now.
30, stop now.
Started at 2, it was up to 10, I just,
Already
Just
went
get the
from
net
5
lights
to
and
10 to 10.
Just get the net lights and throw them up.
no.
One more little quick thing about Christmas. It's funny that we're talking about this. I had bought this at Christmas time. This is Missouri Life. And since we're doing things in conjunction with Missouri Life, when I was looking through the magazine, there's a whole page ad for Christmas in Herman. There's a whole page ad for Christmas in St. Charles, and there's a whole page ad for Christmas in Kinswick. I look at those 3 towns as the competition for our tourism dollars. Maybe we could steal some ideas from Missouri. I mean, I don't know if, Christmas.
You mean stealer ideas, or we should have an ad? a
I think we
full-page
should have an
ad?
ad. I think we should have an ad. They're competing with, people are looking, where do I go for an old-fashioned country Christmas?
That's right.
I
And
think,
Candy needs to be on that committee with you.
I will. I volunteer right now. It's on
There you
camera
go.
and everything.
There it is, right there.
I saw that and I was like, doggone them, because I feel like, especially Kinswick and St. Charles, we're in competition with them for our tourism dollars, and people want to go to an old-fashioned
People
Christmas.
coming out of St. Louis, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And, believe it or not, there are still people out there who are like, well, I didn't really know this was here. And I know it's shocking,
Oh, yes.
because I know we're on TV and everything else, but it's just like, you just almost can't saturate it enough. So, yeah, you can have that. I mean,
No, I have this one. I was just looking to see, I hadn't noticed the Kinswick one. I'm sure it's in here
It is,
somewhere.
because the blue owl is just right
Oh,
up there.
yeah. Yeah.
That's, and I've had people tell me when they come in the shop, Kinswick is not that neat of a town historically like we are. I mean, we have so much that they don't have, but
It's big, this is,
it really is growing. I mean, the Apple Butter Festival closes 55 down on both sides of the exit ramp. That happens to be the same weekend.
They are closer to St. Louis, and
Yes.
they spend a lot on advertising.
Yes, I realize
Those
that.
2 things
Yeah,
really draw people into Kinswick.
yeah. And people will admit, oh, the town ain't all that great, but, it's close. But we're only, 45 more
yeah,
minutes
it's
or,
not very far.
Yeah.
so.
So, We have an integrated marketing communications program, and it includes print, it includes online, it includes radio, occasional TV when we can afford it, and also includes a lot of like getting our events out onto all of these free sources. So we do advertise in Missouri Life magazine, and of course last year I wrote a grant to be able to do the 30-minute segment, which I emailed to everyone.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, but up until this point, we have not been able to afford to be in every
Right.
issue with them. They are one of the more expensive publications. But I can take a look and see if maybe we could include.
I was just
more
thinking,
there.
since they do these wonderful 30-minute segments on us.
They don't do those for free.
I know, but I mean, maybe if they would kind of, give us a little bit of a break.
No, there is no break. But there will be something else that I'll have to not do to be able to do that, and I can do that. I try to get into Missouri Life as often as I can afford to do it, but it isn't every issue
Right,
yet.
yeah.
But next year, we may have some more flexibility with that, so.
And you need a bigger advertising budget.
Well,
There
that's
you
one of
go.
the things I'm gonna talk about.
There's never enough money, is there?
Right. But thank you, and always, that's, all of the Tourism Advisory Council members know that you see something, could be even, well, and you're good about this, publications that I may not necessarily be aware of because they're not like broad leisure, they might be specific. Bring those to my attention because I'm always interested. So with that, next month I'll be going to an outreach event called Travel South USA, and this is the one that I've gone to consistently the last 4 years. I think the first one, Laura and I went to it together. We went to an American Bus Association and also to Travel South, and of the markets and the benefit and the amount of time you spend with buyers, Travel South was the one that seems to have more people focused on our types of touring. Some of these bus companies are huge bus companies that take, like New England Leaf Peeper tours or take you to the Grand Canyon or whatever. That's all they do all year. But then there are some other ones that are looking for more specialized itineraries, and so we try to make all the appointments that we can for that. To be able to afford that, the first year that we did that, the state of Missouri helped foot the bill just to get some of our smaller DMOs, designated marketing organizations, to these. And then gradually, now it's 100% our budget for it. But I partner with Kate Gerardo, and we tend to do themes like, if they're going north-south on I-55, if they can jump off and experience part of St. Genevieve on their way to Memphis or on their way to St. Louis. So we tend to partner on like history on Mississippi, or talking about, do some history in the morning and some wine in the afternoon, whatever it might be. And so I'll be going to that again at the end of February. And I've had conversations, but I'm going to be reaching out to, as you all know, we have the new expanded museum coming on board in May. We have obviously the National Park coming on this summer, and we also have the water park coming on. And so I'm reaching out of those three. I already have, of course, all the information on the National Park. But reaching out to the community center and to the museum to ask if they have like a one-page sell sheet that is used for these kind of events, that we would be glad to include that, because a lot of these types of tour planners, they're planning 2 years down the road, or they might be adding something on a tour they've already got planned in 2019 in the fall, or possibly in 2020. So with that said, I'm always looking at opportunities to get our name out there, both within the region and with these large tour companies. And we've had a number of them respond to us. We've gotten a few more bus tours that, you know, we met with probably a couple of years ago that are booking their tours now. Here at the Welcome Center, we coordinate the tours that go to multiple sites. We provide step-on guides, both in French and English, for the tour buses that are coming to St. Genevieve. As you have heard me say before, when it comes to riverboats, we send our tour guides down to the boat when it docks at Chester. They're talking about St. Genevieve the entire way up here. And then when they get here, we're coordinating that point-to-point for those excursion companies. So we continue to do that. I've already had a conversation with our future director for the National Park site, and he has committed that that will continue in terms of the participation by those sites in our collective tours once the park has been established. So that's, you know, that's always encouraging to know that they're still going to be welcoming those kinds of groups. So just wanted to put that out there so everyone was aware of it. And then along those same lines, I'm also partnering with, on the state grant that we apply for in the spring each year, because we're considered a county tourism level 1, which is based on a formula I won't go into, but majority of it has to do with number of jobs in the community that are directly relevant to tourism, and we have about 500, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot in our county, but some of the counties around us have more, and then also the number of room nights available. And so up until this past year, we were not eligible to apply for more than about $5,000 worth and match it locally in that state grant program. Last fall, they had informed us that the state was going to allow communities, encourage communities to partner together and to do like a regional application, and then you can become eligible for more funds than you would have and together. So we had already, in Missouri Life magazine, as a matter of fact, we had partnered with Farmington because they have, well, they're our closest neighbors to the west. They have Highway 32, and they have rooms that we don't have, so we get a higher rating because of those rooms. And then also we share some of our, obviously the wineries, some of the Route de Vin wineries are in St. Genevieve County, some are in St. Francis County, and then some of our attractions towards the west side of the county. Very often people are staying here and seeing those attractions. Sometimes they're staying in Farmington and seeing those attractions coming to St. Genevieve. We frequently have people from Timber Creek Resort, which is in St. Francis County, who are doing a timeshare there and they come in. I'm sure you had some to the Felix Valley State Historic Site too. So we explored the possibilities of being able to partner with St. Francis, and it looks like together, now everything's dependent on their budget, but it looks like together we will be able to apply for more than twice what I could have applied for individually for St. Genevieve County. So even if some of our things will be joint efforts, we're still going to be eligible for more funds through that grant program than we could have touched on our own.
So is 500 jobs relevant to tourism? Is that a small number comparatively?
Compared to other counties, yes.
Yeah.
In our county, 500 jobs, that's a major industry.
Well, right,
We have
but
the
I mean-
Rhine Hill, others.
I mean, compared to other counties, they have
Yes.
tourism. Yeah.
Yes. And the number of sleeping rooms available, like all of our B&Bs and, our small hotels
Right.
add up to less than 200. And so Farmington doubles that, Perry County to the south of us doubles that. So we'll be looking at that and looking at ways to bring in more matching dollars here to St. Genevieve, and also, partner with our neighbors to get more attention here, specifically the hour south of St. Louis kind of attention. So just want to alert you to that. And that's one way to grow the budget here without having to grow the budget through the city, which is currently revising their budget program. That's the other thing I wanted to point out is that if you've been following the Board of Alderman meetings lately, you know that they've asked the city to engage in a series of workshops by which they're going to even take the FY19 budget that has been approved, and we've already been through all those budget hearings, but just look at that in terms of if we were doing things differently, how could we do things differently? And is there any place in any of the functions that the city provides that maybe we could save some money? So it's important for all the Tourism Advisory Council members to know and remember when you're having conversations that a good part of the budget for tourism does not originate through city sales tax dollars. Some of it comes from the state, some of it comes from the county, some of it comes from other grants that we apply for, and when it comes to my salary, some of it actually comes from economic development too. So and Sarah and I were having this conversation earlier, when it comes to specifically the dollars that we allocate just for the marketing campaigns, when I go to meetings with other tourism directors from around the state, they have events, like let's say it would be a big event like the Jurt Effect, whose advertising budget for the one event is bigger than my entire marketing budget from all sources for the whole year. So that kind of puts it into perspective for you. And I don't mind, I am not afraid of that, and I'm not afraid of this process. But I think it's important to know that we're cobbling together all the funds that we can from a multiple sources. And I think it's important that we maintain what we can. And as the mayor said at one of the budget meetings, now is not the time to back off. We've worked really hard to get this national park here. The community center is going to be adding a water park. The members of the community have worked really hard to get this museum fundraised for, and you know, all of the plans there. So this is not the time to back off. So,
And I think you get a lot of bang for our buck.
well, thank you.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of bang for our buck.
I attempt to just squeeze a penny.
I know.
And I'm actually, a lot of what we're doing, I ask or require our, like if I'm doing print advertising, I tell them that we're trying to get all of our advertising dollars to be also in the digital format. So if they have a digital version of their magazine, or if they have like a weekly, you know, what's new from your favorite magazine that goes out by email, I ask if we can participate in that to kind of leverage the dollars that we do have. The next thing in your packets is the list of 2019 events. So, as you might expect, January is pretty slow time here in the Welcome Center. So this is the time that we do all this data stuff. We also reach out to all of the event coordinating organizations and agencies and so on, represented across the community that we help promote the events if they are tourism related. I mean, there are certain things like church picnics and things like that that, yes, that will put their flyers out, but when it comes to making it onto this list, it's specifically tourism relevant. And so some of these might come from the community center, some come from some of the other historic properties, some come from the Foundation for Restoration, like the Fall History Conference. So, and the Master Gardeners with the Garden Walk, we all know what a popular event that is. So this is your 2019 events list. And the Felix Valley is just waiting to confirm the date for the Rebellion, which is their Christmas celebration. Would you like to speak to that, Donna?
We forever had it on Sunday afternoon, but I'm trying to get it to where we can have it on Saturday afternoon, so we can also take advantage of, you know, all of the people who are in town for the Christmas festival. So that's the plan, because I feel like that way more people will get to see it, because people are leaving town and they're not getting to see the whole week done, so.
And you put a lot of work into that, all of your events,
lot
but
of
really that one, there's a lot of food. So that's the only question that's hanging out there, and as soon as we have that nailed down, we'll be able to, and you're familiar with the two-sided cards that we do. So these go out with all of our packages that we prepare when we're sending out information to individuals who ask for information, also to schools, or we have a lot more universities and adult tours, even senior living centers. So we use that, and of course, whenever I, do any outreach programs, we take them with us and include those too. So that's your own personal copy. And then the staff here at the Welcome Center, they enter all of these events with a description that has been approved by the event coordinator. And Laura remembers this from the days of the Root Event events, but we enter these across free online calendars for radios, magazines, television stations, print newspapers. The state, Visit Mo, has an events like what's going on in Southeast region. You can click on it. We're always in that. We submit them to like the Rural Missouri Magazine. We submit them to, obviously our website as well, and the chamber website. I might need to get you the event descriptions, because we used to have the same webmaster, but we don't anymore, so probably need to do that. I thought about that.
Well, we just posted all of our Summer Music Series stuff on our website and our social media. So
Did
should
you
be able
used to
share.
have the events on yours, or did you refer people to ours for the events?
Well,
Other than-
we shared the same calendar, remember?
Okay.
So once it was up there, we got to it the same way. But now it's a little different.
Right. So, we could talk about how to do it. You could say for other tourism-related events, click here, and it could go to Visit St. John.
Yeah, we have your link on our calendar page.
Okay, on
That
events?
takes
Okay.
you to your event page.
Well, then,
And then the same for our social media too. Like I share your events that you post, and you can share the events that I post. And it goes right to the, the actual social media.
the event, yes,
Yeah, it's almost like they copy it from you.
yeah. So that's a good point, Dina. We also do that with the downtown St. John events, like Chocolate Walk. We share their social media postings onto our pages so that our audiences will see what they've got. And then we started out not doing it that way, but then we found out it was more efficient for whatever the tracking organization is, if they're actively tracking, when we share theirs, it allows them to see the total exposures.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to point that out also. We have continued to meet with the Downtown St. John group, and there will be an article in the paper pretty soon, but the 2019 Fourth Friday art events, the first one will begin as of February 4th Friday, so the February 22nd, and then go through November. These will be sponsored this year instead of by Downtown St. John. They'll be sponsored by the Gallery Association, Gallery Owners Association. So not that much of a difference, but they're hoping to increase the foot traffic for Art Walk and really get more of the gallery owners active and engaged, and bringing in artists, whether they're artists that they feature in their shop or regional artists to come in for that Friday night, having more music and that kind of thing. So if you have an opportunity to spread the word or like the events on social media, and also watch the Herald, because they're going to have information on it too.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know it's not for this committee, and I think I missed the last downtown meeting, but did anyone talk about the wayfinding signs, about the letters
The
bubbled?
ones that have to be changed.
The ones that the letters are bubbled? Have you noticed that?
We did not talk about that.
I'm sorry, I was at that meeting. They did not discuss any bubbling, but they did discuss swapping out for some businesses that have recently closed and getting new ones made. So Lawrence is working on that part of it.
Because I know like the wayfinding post post that's right there in front of Sepulveda Sassy, there's at least 2 signs that the letters have bubbled up.
I don't
Almost
think
like
anyone had noticed it by
about
the
healed or something. So I don't know, and this is only, they've only been up for a couple of
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, they're fairly
So I'm
new.
kind of worried about that
Mhm.
lasting effect for weather. So we might, I'm not sure when is our next meeting coming up.
I'm meeting with Jen on Saturday, so I can mention it to her and see
Okay.
that it gets put on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't, and she might not even know. I was walking back from Ciro's the other day and I just happened to look up at one.
No, they discussed several parts of the signs and that never came up, so.
Yeah, the one that's closest to me, the one that's the worst is the Southern Hotel. I mean, it looks like it's about ready just to like heal completely.
Wow.
I think we also need to put on there where the restrooms are, like there's no,
That's a
you
good
don't know where the
idea.
restrooms are, and I think we need that
I thought
on,
we had an identification for restrooms.
I mean, on those I think we
On
need
the
to
way
have signs.
I thought we did
I don't
have
think
one.
there
I don't think there is.
Oh.
I think we
That's a
need
good
to
idea.
have the restrooms on there.
So just a thought in case some other businesses notice that their stuff is bubbling. I did notice it on
It
there.
should still be under warranty.
Well, you would think, because I know they went through a lot of vinyl testing on that
Mhm.
stuff for weather purposes. So,
See, that was the problem we had, was this
Ongoing,
is,
isn't it?
who's responsible for that?
yeah.
It's with everything. We got the city, it's not a city, the city guys put them up, but we're
But
gonna
if
have
they
to.
only went up in September and it's only January.
No, they
Absolutely.
went up in July.
Oh, July. okay.
Susie will take care of
Well,
that.
still
We'll talk with
July,
Jen.
but still, I
Yeah.
mean, 6 months worth and they're already having some
Actually, I
issues.
should clarify, some of them went up in July, and then they put the rest up as they were able to get to them. So there were some that, and I don't know about that one,
That were weird. Yeah.
that would have only gone up in probably September.
I just don't know if we didn't contemplate the weather good enough. I don't know what the deal is, but I just don't want some businesses to come to, like the chamber, to Sandra and say, hey, this is your problem, and it's not really either one of our problems. So, just a note.
The subject that just keeps on going.
We'll start wayfinding signs.
It just goes and goes and goes.
So, for those who may not be aware, the plan with those signs was every 6 months to review any adds, changes, deletions, things that might need to be changed. So, I wasn't at the meeting, but I gave my input to Lawrence, and I believe he reported out at the meeting. And so, I don't know, Martin, did Lawrence send a list to you for the, okay. So someplace it needs to eventually get to the street department so that they can pull whichever ones, and I don't think it's very many, probably less than a dozen that need to be added, changed, or deleted.
So, moving forward, who do we go through to get the new signs added? The downtown St. John group? Who's putting the vinyl on those?
Oh, they're
They
taking care of the
brewer.
orders.
Yeah, so Lawrence was compiling the list, and I believe at the next meeting,
Okay.
because they were gonna draft a letter to new business owners.
Using the same company, vinyl company? That might
Well,
be-
if they weren't aware that there's a problem,
Yeah.
but I will mention it. But yes, they were drafting a letter to the new business owners and compiling the list of which ones need to be changed or deleted.
Okay.
And I think he was repricing things.
I'll talk with you after this
Okay.
meeting real quick.
And I put a note about bathrooms on there too. Did you also put this? Okay. Okay, so one of the other things that has come up recently that quite a few businesses have asked me about, and I was talking to Sarah about it earlier, and this kind of goes back to what Candy said earlier about types of priorities that we can do. At one point, we had billboards out on Interstate 55. We actually had 2 of them. We do still have a billboard as you're coming into St. Genevieve from Wine Country, because there's a lot of traffic that gets off 55 and just goes back and forth to Wine Country, one of them is CS. So we do still have that one there for the Wine Country traffic to encourage them to see St. Genevieve the next time. And we do here get a lot of people that say, I've been coming down here for years and I decided to come into the historic district. Huh, great. You would
Why
think,
now? Why not sooner?
Yeah. So, I've had a number of business owners stop me and ask, why did we ever decide that having a billboard wasn't a priority, and is there a way that we could get one back? And, so I just wanted to see what the other advisory council members, if you've had any, discussions, and people have they made remarks to you, as a business owner or as another entity?
I have, actually.
Yes.
And it's because people have stated that they accidentally found us because of the antique mall signs
Wow.
going to St. Mary's.
So it's
And
a
that's
billboard
been
that
more
they
than one
noticed,
customer. I
yeah.
had about 4 or 5 say, this is really, really neat. I was coming to go to the antique mall, and they got off and went through town, saw that little historic district sign, curiosity, come over. They were like, I had no idea this was here. We were going to go to the antique mall. So the antique mall sign is actually drawing people
For St. Genevieve.
for St. Genevieve. Yeah,
I am a fan of a highway billboard.
yeah.
I think
I
St.
am
Genevieve, I think St. Genevieve needs a highway billboard. And the only evidence I have is sort of anecdotal, and I have a billboard on Highway 32. And people do tell me, though, that they deliberately come into the shop because they've seen that billboard.
Right, and I
And
saw
really,
the
they
billboard
want to know.
today.
They want the 5-cent
They-
coffee.
You still, yeah, you still have cent coffee.
10 cents, it's 10 cents.
Yeah, you still have 10-cent coffee.
Yeah,
So it's really anecdotal. I don't have any
yeah.
statistics. But I think advertising pays.
I do too.
And I think a billboard is a way to reach a lot of people in a big hurry.
But it's just so weird that it was St. Mary's Antique Mall that would draw.
Right.
And I've had like I said, 4 or 5 different people come in and go, what a charming town. I found it because I was on my way to the antique mall. And they follow those antique
Yeah.
malls.
We don't have that one on 55 South anymore.
No, it's been taken over by a business in Perryville. But I have asked, just in case we ever, when we let go of that, when we do the contract, I asked them to keep us in mind for future. And, it all depends on traffic count and everything, but I've asked them to keep us in mind. It wouldn't be the kind of thing that I can afford in the regular marketing budget, but it would be the kind of thing that the Tourism Tax Commission dollars, Jack's our liaison for that.
Thing is, they are so expensive, and there's just no way to really, yes, you hear some.
It's all anecdotal, yeah.
You just don't know if you're getting your money back from it. Is that something we could take to the tax commission again to see if they would reconsider? In my opinion, I think you'd be better off trading the 1B for a highway, even though it's going to be more expensive on the highway. You're hitting more people on the highway, and the minor people are on their way home and have drunk. They're not worried about it. That means they're not paying attention.
What do you think?
So I don't try to keep it tight.
The cost of that one is much lower.
I'm sure it is, I'm sure it is, but I don't, if you want a highway one, I think that's what you should do.
Was it the TTC that decided not to do the billboards anymore?
Well, because it is an expensive proposition, they usually spend about $24,000 per year. And each of those billboards that we had was around $5,000, $6,000 per year. The other one out on B Road is like maybe $1,500.
But you could offset your cost for your highway one if you got rid of that, which, probably isn't.
How long has the billboards been down?
At this point, almost a year and a half.
Have you noticed in that year and a half?
There you got
the
your
tourism-
records, and all you can go by is people coming in
Right.
in the year. So
Well,
that's the only bad part about that. It's with everything. It's measured.
yes,
Right.
that's
And
true.
it's hard to measure it, but my output on signs is you drive by and you don't even see it. Because you get so used to seeing them, so signs to me are.
He's a commuter.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm looking for historical sites and places to go, whenever I'm traveling.
Well, I'm understanding that, then,
Yeah.
so if you're looking for that, you're going to a destination.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I think people that are looking for that are looking in magazines and they're looking at, just my 2 cents, signs, you can put signs up and people, I can tell you right now, there's probably all of you here, I could ask you where this sign, what it says, and you wouldn't be able to tell me because you drive by it every day, you don't see it. You just don't see them after a while.
Well, I have signs.
And if I'm coming down
It says
55,
the store,
you know,
I try to go through.
How many of them are really a big sign like that? It used to be in the day, you know, we used to do that on a Sunday. People used to drive and go and do things like that, but now it's all destination.
Now
Everybody's changing. Yeah.
Everybody's using these.
Yeah, that's where it's going to, you know, so. That's where I think you're, but y'all know more about marketing than I do. I'm not a marketing person.
So, any other thoughts? I just wanted to bring it up because this is, you know, the time that we talk about these kinds of things.
Jack, I think you can tell the TTC that we discussed it, and some of us sort of like highway billboards, and we don't know what to do with that.
Precisely.
I mean, I know there are only so many dollars to go around, but
But I think on these, like in Perryville, and I know this guy that was in town with this big lighted sign, is like in Farmington, there's one of those, aren't there? Where they put these flashing light signs, the one that just got voted down here.
there's
Yes.
one right at the edge, right at Highway 32.
I mean, I'm just saying that, would you think about advertising the historic St. Genevieve Historic District on a sign in Farmington or Perryville or another community?
Actually, I had a conversation with them.
Yeah.
I wasn't too crazy about having one of those kinds of signs inside city limits.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about advertising dollars on a sign in Farmington to let people know we're here.
Yes, so I approached that gentleman and asked him about it. And I think they have identified a new location along Highway 32.
Yeah, it's gonna go right
It's
outside
outside
city limits.
limits,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's going up, but it's going right outside
Right,
right there by Overby's, so.
right, so I have asked them for pricing information on those
Yeah,
other signs.
I would just say if you're gonna advertise on a sign, that's the thing. I mean, in Farmington, I wouldn't advertise the historic district here, people are here already. But, I mean, if it's one of those signs or somewhere else.
So you mean people they buy a flash?
Exactly.
Yeah, you buy it,
Exactly.
if it flashes on their sign, say Genevieve Historic
So you
District.
thought you could get a grant? What did you say? How did you say you thought you could fund a highway sign? You said something a minute ago.
With the TTC.
No, it wasn't with the TTC. You said I couldn't take it out of my budget, but.
Yeah, it comes out of where they do the hotel motel tax. Ain't
Oh,
that
that's
money?
what, yeah.
That's the budget we're working on.
Yeah, that's the TTC.
That's
not
Oh,
the TTC.
Oh, that's what you were asking?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what the TTC is, the 2%
They spend that
lodging
money.
tax on.
Yeah.
So has the TTC thought about buying a flash on that Farmington sign?
They have it,
Some of
because I haven't gotten pricing, and so I
Okay,
could take
okay.
that to them at a future
Yeah.
meeting.
What did the TTC decide to do with their money?
So their help, we went from a banner ad, like in Webster Kirkwood Times, and then all the merchants that wanted to participate or the chamber would fall underneath that, to full-size, sort of an advertorial format that I've shown you in a previous meeting, in some of those key publications for our target markets. Those are very expensive too. I mean, one of those can be several $1,000s. So by doing that, they're helping increase
That's
visibility
one
in
of
a different way.
Powers used in the past, right?
What about in Kimmswick? Is there any way to advertise in Kimmswick?
My thoughts, exactly.
On
Yes.
Rural Heritage Days, we want to have a sign
Oh.
when they're backed up on 55.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny you say
Understand.
that because I
Yeah.
actually had, because the Rural Heritage Day weekend was the same.
I mean, though, is there
And I
literature
had
out in the
people
shops
say it was too
in
crowded, they came down there.
Kimmswick about St. Genevieve? I mean, in different places. Those little rack cards or something.
Sure.
Is there stuff out in Kimmswick?
We don't, well, I don't think they're part of the rack card distribution program.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, those
Yeah.
were,
Well, the Delta Queens headquarters is down there. Do they have any kind of a,
they're gonna start it now. They're still in the process, but
It's not open yet, but
I mean, will they have a rack thing with, you know, and then maybe their,
I can ask.
Don't they have a little informational building in Kim?
They do, yes, they do. Yeah. I think it's all kids'
yeah, I think
stuff,
Bob's
but I
on the
can
right
find
track.
out.
What a big sign right there, the Imperial exit.
Right before it, I mean, they're backing up, just
Yeah, they are,
come
and I
right.
had people say, I came here because I couldn't get off the exit ramp, and I'm like, heck with this, I'm just going down,
Yeah.
and they came down to us.
We did,
It was
we
too
had
proud.
people.
See if you can get a 2-day sign.
Like a real estate sign, avoid the crowd.
Like those, like with an
How
arrow.
about an airplane?
Flashing arrow.
A little bit tacky.
Flashing arrow on a
Yeah,
tour.
that's put up a sign.
Yeah.
Don't say slow coming.
I like the airplane.
Yeah, the airplane, I'll have an airplane fly by, this is baloney, a smoke ride.
What I can do is, Sarah asked Jack to ask the TTC, yeah, I'm even getting confused, to, to take it under consideration. And I can give them the information about how much it would cost.
Do you know how much it will cost?
Well, I've asked them to keep me informed about available signs. So it's gonna be $5,000 or $6,000.
What does it cost for an 8-second flash? Do you
They
know?
haven't given me pricing yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant billboards. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm talking about the.
We don't have that pricing yet, but I have asked them for it.
I mean, the placement's the big piece too. You don't want it too far up and you don't want it too far down.
Mhm.
I don't think we're ever gonna get that billboard back, but we just lost it.
I just
very
let it
well. She's not gonna let go of it.
Mhm.
What about those ones in Cape that have like, they look like an accordion and they change?
That's what
every
we're,
once in a
that's
while?
the flash that we're kind
Is
of.
that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
It's the same, I'm thinking of that silly
Yeah, but if
LED
you're gonna pay
thing.
that kind of money for a billboard, you're not getting nearly your bang over your buck out of it.
Right, it's because
I
I'll
know.
be everyday cars
Right.
and see it.
Yeah,
But,
those are cool.
No, and you're not gonna get your bang for your buck
On the flash.
on the north coming from Cape. I think you want it to be southbound 55 or something.
oh, if we only do one, that would be the
Yeah.
one, absolutely. And, okay, so when we're splitting hairs, traffic count, the price doubles to 10 to 12,000 above the Festus Cloverleaf Exchange. But there are a lot of people that,
More
you
people
know,
at
that still
67.
see it. And especially like parents going down to Cape to
Right,
chemo.
Mhm.
And then they say, we just decided to get off here, or whatever, so.
Yeah, there's that one right behind the Do It Center there, I think, there's a billboard. Right there as you're going into their main road.
Are you allowed to be on those trailblazer signs off the highway? You know how where it says the attraction, where it says. Yeah, or where it's, like King has one on there.
Yes, oh, I know what you mean.
Like you could put the welcome, the historic district or something on there so people got off the highway. I don't know, I'm just.
Those are pretty expensive too.
They're only like $1,000 compared to $5.
I thought they were more than that.
What kind of?
Well, a little bit more than that, but no.
This is when they're called tourism-oriented directional signage. It's a big blue sign with like the squares on it. One of them will say Dairy Queen and
Yeah.
other places to eat. The next thing says attractions.
Right.
And so a lot of wineries have
Yeah.
their squares on there.
Uh-huh.
She's saying, what if we got a square to say St.
Historic.
Genevieve Historic District or something? So there will also in the future be a national park sign
Right,
out there.
right.
Felix Valley State Historic
Right.
Site, Han State Park are
Mhm.
already listed, and there's one that says St. Genevieve Historic District on the brown signs,
Mhm.
the regular
Oh,
brown
there is.
signs.
See, you're not seeing it. It's sitting out there, I see that one.
I saw that one.
Yeah, that's the problem with signs right there. How many times have you gotten off that exit?
Here's your
Oh, is
sign.
there one? I rest my case.
Here's your sign. Oh, my. What
You don't
can
say
of worms.
anything.
That's all right, that's what it's all about.
Oh, that was good.
You don't even sit there. I know, I was waiting.
I can't believe you said it.
Yeah, on him. Get that camera turned on him.
Okay. I have some other things, but they're related to other points on the agenda. I will just say that You probably wondered what in the world your agenda item that said preferred name resolution had to do with, and you have a copy of that in your packet. This is a request that has come to us through our future National Park Service Director. And
It's right here. It looks like
thank you.
it.
Looks like that. It has St. Genevieve.
Here, I have an
at the top.
extra one.
Okay. Did somebody miss it when they're counting? So there it is. So it has the St. Genevieve logo at the top. It's a resolution. Basically, the short version is St. Genevieve National Historical Park with Saint spelled out is what they would prefer, and they wanted support from the community. So our Board of Aldermen has already done this resolution. Our county commissioners have already done the resolution. And Sarah asked me to bring this to the Tourism Advisory Council so you could be on record if you feel that you want to support such a resolution.
Yeah, so when you've had a chance to look at it, and it says, whereas St. Genevieve is Missouri's oldest town, colonized by early French Canadian settlers in the early 1700s, and whereas the town was named after the patron saint of Paris, France, and called Saint Genevieve, S-A-I-N-T-E, and whereas the Congress, the President, and the National Park Service have approved the establishment of a unit of the National Park Service to recognize the significance and unique characteristics of this historic community, now therefore be it resolved that the St. Genevieve Tourism Advisory Council, that's us, hereby supports the preferred name of St. Genevieve National Historical Park, which is what National Park Service would prefer that the St. Genevieve Park is known as. And so I would entertain a motion that we adopt this, and if so, I'll sign it, and then we can, so. Do we have a motion from the, any second? All those in favor of adopting this resolution?
Who
Okay.
was the second? I'm sorry. Oh, Donna,
Donna.
thank you.
Donna, yes.
I'm not used to having to do all this. Thank you.
Is there, do we know who the national
I guess it is a word.
park, or who our national park person is?
It will be Tim Good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I hope that wasn't a secret.
Well, we know he is the interim.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
It's
they,
rude.
Yeah.
yeah, well, on the camera, yeah.
Sandra, he's amazing.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the third word under the station?
Assorting.
Assorting?
Yeah.
A
Supporting?
resolution, assorting?
Yeah.
Sort of.
I'm-
Oh,
That's a new word to me, but I'm guessing it's supposed to be supporting.
It's supporting.
Well, I'm a little dyslexic, so.
I just wanted to make sure
It's
that we didn't
supporting.
sign this to make it official if there was a
Yeah.
typo.
Supporting out of that.
Thank you for pointing that out, it shall be changed.
You have to
before the
speak your language, Paul.
we're all left-handed.
We're all
A little, we read things from right to left.
I can write upside down on the map.
I can too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Susan.
We left these new, which
Mark
you
and I
meant.
both at the same time, we were like, so.
And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. And I would point out that the museum, and I'm on that board also, we are ahead of the curve because on the front of the building, it says St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center, and Saint is spelled out. So we're already on board with that.
Yeah.
Using the whole word.
Trendsetters.
Yeah, that would be it.
I like it, I really like it.
And at this point, I don't know that we have a lot to report about the National Parks update, unless you want, or unless, we don't know why Bobby's here, he's still working. No, okay, all right.
Well, so I will just say
Let me kick
that,
him out of the house.
Except that if we were, with the furlough, I think probably we can figure that everything is in slow motion
yes.
with the federal furlough.
So yesterday, as in honor of the furlough being lifted, I contacted our national parks person and our fish and wildlife person because we have these long ongoing projects and we were kind of at some key positions right before the holidays and everything got shut down. So Tim Good, our interim to be park superintendent, assured me that everything is on track for what he laid out as his original plan. Their target to accept the first piece of property, which will be the Amaro, is March, and their target to establish the park is, he says May or June, so to be safe, I've been telling people June.
On June.
So, and in the interim in between there, I had to contact him some time ago because we had to know for all of these student tours and really just for the spring season starting up, what the situation was going to be. So he has said that through ongoing, that the operations will be ongoing through agreements with the current property owners. So that's all good. And then the next one that I called was our Fish and Wildlife Service point of contact. And right before the holidays, we had left it where we had a draft memorandum of understanding between the city and the Fish and Wildlife Service and what we thought was going to be the Joint Levy Commission, and it turns out it's actually Levy District 3, to ask the Fish and Wildlife Service if they would help us with some moving along on projects, and especially with some expertise when it comes to mowing in between our little trees and the habitat area down there that are very carefully spaced and marked with plastic so they don't get mowed over. But this memorandum of understanding will allow the city to move forward on that. So as of December, there was a draft that was presented to the Board of Aldermen. They approved it in principle. Martin made a few changes to it with some language clarifications related to the levy district. And I think that'll probably be signed pretty quickly, and then maybe we can make some progress on that project too. So,
Excellent. Good, thank you. Okay. And on the agenda, we have planning for the Missouri Bicentennial. And we talked about this briefly at the last meeting in October. And among other things, we have a list of some possible suggested activities. I mean, we're probably, well, definitely not going to be able to carry out all of these activities, and they are just points of discussion. And one of them, I think, is if you have a list of those activities on the back, is a list of houses, because those are some proposed houses that would get a house marker. Yes, no, you don't have that list?
yeah, I'm still looking at the sorting, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I kind of like it, maybe it's a new word.
It really sounds kind of official.
I think
That's
it's
why
kind of-
I thought it must be a legal term.
It's
So I'll just shut up.
It's a legal term.
So all the credit goes to Bob Mueller here. He did the research to determine all of the houses that were here at the time of the statehood. And so this isn't a list of French colonial houses, this, although a lot of them are, this isn't a list of 1700s houses. This is a list of all the houses that were built prior to 1821 in statehood and are still around. Right, Bob?
Yeah.
And you need the John Burke house on here.
The little cabin.
Yeah.
The thing, what we were thinking about is we probably have more houses than anybody in the United, or in Missouri that are from that time period. And if we
Can I
could
stop
mark,
you for just a minute? Do you have about 2 minutes worth of stuff? I find myself in a very embarrassing situation. I left somebody standing out in the cold and I promised to pick them up at 7.
okay,
Can I run and pick them up and I'll be back in 2 minutes and you can talk?
okay.
I sort of anticipated this might be a shorter meeting.
What happened to the short meeting? It's boy, it's 6:52.
Yeah,
Well, if you don't have any, but you didn't have a meeting in a while.
yeah, so I will be back.
Okay, thank you.
But it was just one of the ideas that we could use St. Genevieve to really be a part of this bicentennial celebration in 2021. And Sandra and I were talking earlier today, what we really would like is a series of things that are gonna draw people to town. Some of these things we can do very easily and just kind of market it. And, you know, things like the Muni Band having a Missouri music night, that's really easy to do. But we need to think about how do we get people coming in here? I mean, as a tourism board, and maybe you could use these houses for a bicentennial house tour or something.
Mhm. Are a lot of these private owned?
Pardon?
Are a lot of these homes private owned?
Yeah, both. I mean, they're both. I mean,
Both
we can go down
companies.
the list and see that.
Right now, he's talking about the list of items on the opposite side.
Yeah,
The houses.
right, but to get the people to come to the houses.
Well, you may not have all of them open. You can have,
Right.
you can do walk-bys, you can have a docent or somebody there to explain the house.
Mhm.
You know, but it gets people out and about.
Right.
And you can have some open, some not open.
We had one suggestion that maybe pick 4 of them or 5 and do a quarterly, like a spring house tour of these 4 sites or houses, then a summer, then a fall, and then a winter. I mean, the cemetery could even be one of those things featured on a, on a walking tour in one of the seasons.
I mean, be able to do time periods, pre-1800,
Oh, yeah.
1800 to
Yeah.
1810, and do 3, then
Maybe
start.
tie it in with the Christmas thing, some of the Christmas home tours like some
Yeah.
of the other towns do where they.
And we've had home tours here before.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and there was one at Genevieve a few years ago that Tim Conlon kind of organized.
Uh-huh.
But just a way to get some people in
Right.
here.
So at the last meeting, we had mostly this same list that you had, and there are a couple of items in italics. These were, I met with Donna last week, Donna Roush, about several other things, and we were talking about this, and those italicized items are new things that she suggested. A kids' day, hosted by the historic sites and museums, hands-on activities, really, like burlap sack races, some fun things for kids to do.
Mhm.
And shops could get involved in it too, maybe. And then at the bottom, we were talking about the Fall History Conference, and the suggestion there, what to tie into the bicentennial, was a territorial or statehood theme to that history conference. And she suggested that maybe it would be really fun to have one of the speakers at least be a storyteller, pertinent to that era. So maybe like John Scott or someone like that could be a storyteller personality. And then at the last meeting, when we had this list, except for those 2 things that are in italics, Sarah had asked that if Tourism Advisory Council members are drawn to a certain type of an event on here, if you wanted to become part of a working group for something like a bike ride or marathon or park or anything like that, if you would look at this and kind of let us know which things are most interesting to you personally. Because we're going to have to, if we're going to do some of the things on this list, we'll have to get enough critical mass of volunteers and, have a committee for those activities that seem to be the most interest to people. And maybe we could even pick which activities to do based on which ones get the most feedback.
We're going to have to narrow it down to things that we're planning to do. And as you say, start working now, because that's going to come to us pretty quick.
I'm drawn to the Kids' Day. Kids are my thing. I love kids, and I love to do history with kids. And there's probably kids in this town, in our own town, that don't even know the history, because like you drive by the signs every day. You can live in a community with these historical houses and never have visited one, And so, and especially nowadays, I'm going to be politically incorrect. History is not being taught like it was when we were in school. And so it's a really important thing to me for kids to know not only their local and state history, but our national history. And we're seeing evidences of this all over the country right now, and a lack of knowing what our history is. And so I think it's important that the kids participate.
We'll go to the next
generation.
Exactly, and,
Yeah.
and I'm a little concerned about it, and so I'm really, and having gone on these vacations, we always went on historical vacations, because my husband and I both love it, and our kids always enjoyed the hands-on stuff. Even, chores, I'm like, why don't you do that at home? But it's because they were at Old Sturbridge Village, or at they were in a neat place, and it was cool to them, to have to carry a stack of wood over to the fire pit or whatever, So I really am, and even if we could get the schools involved, if we could get some of the schools the classrooms to adopt a house and make a report on the house and the people that live there and the time period and everything, and get the schools involved in doing
They
this.
can write grants too. Yeah, so they, because I know.
The teachers, you mean, Donna?
Yeah, I don't know how many years ago it was, Sarah would remember, but Valley Road grant, and every grade came to Felix Valley, and we had to adjust it for their grade level to teach them something about something.
That's good. So right now, it's third grade students. All of them within bus ride come to St. Genevieve and they do the passport tour.
Wonderful.
And it used to be fourth grade students. So and that includes kids here in our backyard.
Right,
But wouldn't it be cool to have something grade level appropriate
Yeah.
from first through eight? Well, first is it too
And
bad?
no, we actually did folk tales with them and
puppets, kids love
let them
puppets.
kind of take part in the story.
But you want to think about doing it in kind of the theme of the 1820s.
Right,
Because
right,
that's the time period
exactly,
we're
for the
talking
statehood thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably an
What were
easier
kids
thing to
doing
do.
at that time, at that age
Yeah.
level in 1821? What were first grade age kids doing? What were third
There's
grade?
probably more material available for that than there is 1700s
Oh, yeah.
in some ways. I mean, I know we always focus on that.
Yeah, they're all adaptable.
There's also, there's a website, the State Historical Society. If you go on their website, you can get, on the front page, you can get to a bicentennial button that takes you to another one. There's a photography contest going on.
Oh, cool.
Those papers are making their way around. I don't think they've made it
Yeah.
all the way yet, but they're full color. Yep. And that's from the website that Bob is talking about.
Okay.
So
there's
these
a
are some of the
variety of
things we're
things.
going to participate in.
Missouri2021.org.
One of the things, and this isn't student related, but one of the things that when Bob and I were meeting with them sounded really cool is they're going to get a Missouri bicentennial quilt. It will have a quilt block from every county in the state. They're going to have to do the math and figure it out. But so I've already talked with the hospital because all of our quilting societies around here go one day a month to the hospital. So I can hit all of them at once and say, please come up with a contest so that we can have lots of submissions for a suggestion for St. Genevieve County's quilt. And then whichever one gets sent to the state, then we would still have a whole quilt here that would be the St. Genevieve bicentennial quilt, and one of them would be in the state bicentennial.
Because the state is only 6 by 6, if I
Right.
remember. Right, the panel. But the idea of ending up with a St. Genevieve quilt is kind of neat too.
It is, yeah.
So, and there's a penny drive on there, you saw, there's a photography contest, so, quite a variety for different ages, I think.
This document, I like the document idea.
Yeah, we need to get into our archives and look at documents from the time period. And I know probably the State Historical Society is probably going to put together an exhibit of early documents. But John Scott, he was our congressional representative to take it to Congress. He lived right up the street here. And he was very important. He was our first U.S. representative. So, I mean, St. Genevieve is kind of key in that time period.
One more thing is a suggestion that's not on here, and this is, again, because my store is in a former slave house. I think we should because slavery was still in place in 1821, I think we should do something to address that. I don't know exactly
We
what.
have some great stories here.
Yeah. Well, of course of even free black women
You know, so the difference in their life and the difference in the ones that were still enslaved. I mean, I think there's a story that needs to be told too. Maybe even the native, the native, because they were here too,
By
right?
that time, it was pretty
Cleaned
thin
out
on the
of them?
natives.
Yeah, okay,
We weren't totally gone to the 30s, when they finally pushed them right out.
Yep.
yeah.
They were still here, some.
Because if you don't include those stories, somebody will
Oh, yeah.
ultimately say,
Accuse us of overlooking it,
But you
which
also
is
have to
not
tell them
something that
very,
we've ever
that they're very
done.
sensitive in how you tell some of those.
right,
This day and age.
exactly. But you can't leave it out or you will get accused of ignoring that whole.
Respectfully, tell it respectfully.
Exactly.
And then the last item that's in your packets, and Bob has another element of this, there's 2 emails, it looks like this. There's one at the top and one at the bottom. This is something that Bob sent to me, and I'm sharing it with you. And this has to do with, and we talked about it before, but the idea of forming a Friends of the Park 501c3 org.
Yeah, most of the national parks do have friends groups to help them do their mission. And I think we should end up having one here. There's a variety of things that we want to do with that. Just going to pass some of these around. Kind of just list the goals of the. So one of the things that a friends, one of the things a friends group does is they're an advocate to the government, or to the legislation. The state or the National Park Service cannot lobby Congress. And we have been very successful in being able to lobby Congress as far back as 2000 to get this park. And so that's something a friends group could do. One of the things that we want to do is to be historically accurate as we portray this. And there's lots of dates out there that we're going to have to deal with, but we want this to be as best we can have it from a historical accuracy standpoint. Sometimes this group can be a liaison between the National Park Service, local government, the state, kind of try to pull things together, and the community, because there's always lots of talk that goes on when things are happening, and we need to be out there working with the community. Managing grants, issuing grants, things we could do as a 501c3 would give us the ability to go after money. Promote historical, scientific, educational, interpretive activities. Some of this I've stolen from other people.
It's the best way.
Yep. One of the things I think is very important is we have to work with the city and the NPS to make sure we have a way to get from the park to the downtown area and vice versa. We want that traffic to go both ways. We also, one of the things that they can help us with is signage downtown. They've got a very good interpretive group out of Valley Forge, I believe, and they can provide assistance to us so we get some continuity, consistency of signage. Volunteers, they'll collect volunteers to work on things, completing special projects, and increasing the awareness of the park. So that's kind of the general goals of what I think a friends group would be. Most of them have membership. They may have some liaison with the government offices. Some of them I have to work a little bit more to find out if government also sit on the Friends board. I'm sure the National Park Service is a liaison. But I'd like to kind of get this started and start moving ahead. We had kind of small working groups that worked on getting the NPS to this point, but involve more people as we go down the road. So I think in the next month or two, I'd like to call a meeting of at least the interested people that would like to start this and start moving ahead with it. Because once we get that park here, we want to use it to our advantage.
I'm interested. Obviously. But even if I wasn't, I would still be interested.
So I've got the bylaws from Wilson Creek. It was one of the first ones that did a Friends group in Missouri, and they've been very successful. and they've been willing to share stuff with us. So we'll have to develop our own articles of incorporation and bylaws.
I certainly would be happy to serve on that committee, yes.
I think we have a great we've always said this is a great opportunity for us historically and economically, and we need to take advantage of it. It's been too long a process and a lot of hard work and still a lot to go. I mean, we're not there yet, but
Bob, is there any cost that you'll incur for the 501c3?
well, I mean, there's always, if you,
started,
yeah, I mean, it's
lawyers.
$700, I think, that sort of thing to,
Get that status.
And where do you think that money's gonna come from?
and we'll start figuring out, that's kind of not that much money. I mean, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm worried more about money to do projects and things like
Sure.
that down the road. I would see a membership fee kind of thing. You'd have, if you're not-for-profit, you have to have a board or an executive committee, you know, you have members, so we're gonna have.
Fundraisers, absolutely. Yeah, fundraisers, you could do a
Yeah.
dinner and it'd get you $700.
And then you register with the attorney, state's attorney?
Well, you have to do state, and you have to do
Secretary of
Fed,
State.
the 501c3 is a state, or a Fed
Yeah.
function, and that just means that people donate to it can take it off as a
It
tax
becomes
write-off.
a
I
tax.
think our city attorney helped Bob, they have a 501c now, the Friends of the Park out there. And he did some work for them, and he did it really cheap.
Oh, Friends of the City Park.
Oh, friends of the, yeah, okay.
So, and he's got a law office here in town now, so, and they're wanting to, you know, get invested in the community, so that would probably be something he would do,
Good idea.
I would say for nothing. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm sure we can influence
I'll
him.
send you down there to twist.
Oh, yeah, I'll twist him. Mr. Bishop, yeah, he'd love to help us.
But it's a way to kind of bring the community together too, to move this forward. We have so many wonderful groups in St. Genevieve that are pursuing missions, and to get them working on towards the same thing would be really good.
Good idea.
There's just so many things, not very much time.
And I think it's a
Every
good idea.
day for me.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
To contact the existing organizations in town, so that their membership becomes aware, like the JCs, and the Lions, and the Foundation for Restoration, and the Rotary, and every other organization, many of whom are vested in one way or another in tourism, and certainly all of them in economic development.
Just sitting here thinking, something that we tried to the chamber, remember docent training? We gotta get some younger people learning how to be docents and tour guides.
Which is why we have to help.
Yeah, you know,
We do that.
Frankie and Boatsy Dunsey did a whole generation of kids. And they learned about the town, they learned about the houses. But we kind of missed it. Well, some of you guys are a lot younger. We're missing a generation of people, I think, of doing that sort of thing.
What do you think about the, like when we went up to this school and helped judge the History Day exhibits? I mean, those are kids who are obviously interested in history to the point where they're doing it.
But you gotta develop a program, you gotta teach them, you gotta let them experience it, they have to learn how to work with different types of age groups of people and how you do that. And it's not just the stories that we tell, it's how you tell them with that particular guest.
Adapting it,
If,
yeah.
if the national park, I mean, I took their training a long time ago for interpretive training, teaches you how to read your audience, what to watch for. So maybe they could work with us and we work with them to get those kids into that program.
Because they're gonna be looking for volunteers too.
And not necessarily just kids, but I think,
Well,
you
Young
know,
adults.
Young
I think,
adults, yeah.
I think some of the adult docents, you know, it's Training doesn't hurt any of us.
What about some sort of an internship?
Well, you do
I do internships, yeah.
it's your place.
And I'm trying to get 15-year-olds.
Because don't we have a militia?
We do.
I mean, aren't those kids, those are the kind of kids that are interested in,
Just about all of those are homeschoolers.
right?
But even home, I can
Yeah.
hire, yeah, but see, for me, I can't go any more than 15 and then I have to have parents. But this training I'm talking about also, you know, a lot of times you go to a house, they know the information, that's it. And
Kids
somebody
are gonna
asks them a question, they can't bring back to
Thank you
it.
for all your service, I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, thank you.
Yeah, there's various programs, Connor Perry does a nice job on how to deal with visitors, and it's an experience, that's what you're trying to
Yeah, I've
create
been
an
to Connor
experience.
Prairie, it was very neat, yeah.
You know, Bob, I still have some of those books from that
Yeah.
training, that there's a training, hospitality training or whatever.
But I think we gotta find the people that are, like you say, that are wanting to do it. Some of the junior militia people, obviously there's some kids in there that are gonna be good, but I think we need some young adults, you know, some 30, 40-year-olds too.
Oh, that's what you're calling young, okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
for us,
Well,
that's
wait a
young.
minute, 50's young. What are you talking about?
And we
I'm in
need
the
to,
50s category.
and actually, we need to start on that training about this time of year. Now I have kids starting to call me, are you gonna hire anybody? You know, they're starting now looking for summer jobs.
Well, if we could get the public school to let us come into the high school history class or social studies or whatever and
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Yeah, because do you really want somebody less than 15?
No.
No.
Yeah, so.
Well, yeah, and you know, like in my age, I have to pay attention to Missouri, the child labor. laws.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you called up there and asked them, they would probably let you.
Especially if you say we're starting to get the ball rolling on this bicentennial thing and we need, you know, there's kids there that I'm sure
Because if they love history.
love history right now.
you know,
when you're
Well,
My
they all
children.
love money.
Yeah.
They're gonna be getting paid, they'll learn to do it correctly, because they all love money.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, it's one of the things that we've got to do more of. When you talk about St. Charles, they have the people that roll around in costumes at Christmas time.
Yeah,
And then
carriage
Sandra's,
rides,
yeah,
you know,
Sandra's
things like that.
tried to do that with the Saturday program, but we got to get more of that. When people come here, they want to experience what they saw in that ad.
Right.
And if they're not going to see that, they're kind of disappointed.
Another place that I've been following on Instagram and Facebook is Salem, North Carolina, historical Salem. It's Moravian community. And during the winter, they're having what's called Salem Saturdays. And it's strictly all hands-on. You can go to Winkler Bakery and bake some bread. You can go, you're building a bread oven. You can go to, was that a secret? Not anymore. They're doing clay, you know, they're making clay pots and things like that. And it's not, it doesn't have to just be for kids, it's adults too. And so this is really hitting it off. I'm watching them on Facebook, and it's like Salem Saturdays is really kicking off. And that sounds like what you're wanting, because when people come to a historical town, they do want to have that immersion, that whole experience, that I want to dive into history and feel it and smell it and taste it and touch it, and that's where, you know, kids, I think kids come in.
It's a little difficult because of our mixed architecture here. We're not
Right.
in Williamsburg,
Right,
but we can still
it can still be done because there's mixed architecture in Kinswick, there's mixed architecture in St. Charles, and
But we don't have kilns and.
no, but I mean, we could maybe think of other things that we could
Right,
do in the
exactly.
meantime until we build on that stuff, and then maybe
Yeah.
later on, you could have the kennels and the, you
The
know.
trick is always to find the people to do it and not overwhelm them. So-
Right, give them one
The
Saturday a
regulars?
month,
Yeah,
so it's not too.
Yeah, yeah. And it
Have
doesn't have to
enough
be,
of them.
doesn't have to be every Saturday. You know, it could be one Saturday a month to start with, you know. St. Genevieve Saturdays, I mean, you know. I mean, that's just an idea. It's just things that I always look at all of these other historical towns and see what they're doing, and they're all doing a lot of this thing, the hands-on stuff and the.
I would love to
It's-
see more hands-on activities.
Right, right, and
Experiential
financial,
yeah, it's finding the people
Yeah.
to man those stations.
And
demonstrations.
in costume
Yes.
demonstrators.
No,
Yeah.
no, not costumes, colonial garb.
There you go.
And I'll volunteer to be the ice cream eater over at Sarah's Ice Cream.
Okay. Only if you will crank the freezer.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Is there enough interest that we need a committee to even work on this?
Probably.
I mean, I think it's, you know, is this just the beginning of an idea, or is this something we can flesh out?
I think it needs to be done from here on out. It's the beginning of an idea, but I think as a town, we need to be doing this anyway, whether it's a bicentennial or not. People want things to do. I don't know if you all know this, but Sandy down at the Bolduc, she's opening up the Linden House. The Dames have given her the use of that house. They've not given her any money, any budget. They'll pay for the heating and cooling and whatever, and she's asked me to help her. She's gonna do homeschoolers on Tuesday, starting in March. And they're gonna have 4 themes. You're involved with that too. I'm gonna help her as much as I can. My problem is I wanna do all of this stuff, and I have a physical shop to run too. You know, and there's only me, myself, and I. So, you know, I do wanna do stuff. Maybe I can find somebody to watch the shop on some of these events and, you know, because I love to do stuff with kids.
And that's one of the other things, that being a shop owner, it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have free time.
Right.
And we need more people that can step in and
We
handle the
need some
shop.
retirees that's sitting around twiddling their thumbs and need something to do.
What's that? Retirement? What's that?
Yeah, well, I mean.
Do you think under the category of a committee to work on hands-on history, do you think that part of that engaging youth can be part of the docent thing too? Like, can one evolve into the
I
other?
think it should. I think it should, yeah.
So we could call it hands-on history and then engaging youth through that and engaging retirees. I mean, not to just focus on the demographic, but
Right.
We do the quill and ink and the wax stamping with adults and kids.
The adults are big kids, that's all.
Yeah,
I-
exactly. You know, and I noticed, that, you know, when I would take my kids on the there was things they were getting to do and I wanted to get in there and do it, and I couldn't because I was an adult. I'm like, I just want to get in there and mash those mud bricks with my bare feet too. Let me in there, you know, but they would. So, yeah, I think it should be open to everybody and not just kids.
St. Genevieve's cultural tourism, that's what we're pitching here.
Right.
And it's all this. what we're
And I
talking
ask people when they come in my store, why did you come? I'm always asking that question. And as much as I wish it was to shop, it's not. It's always the same answer. I'm here for the history. I'm here for the history. I'm here for the history.
the shopping is
The
an
shopping
added
is
bonus.
secondary.
Yeah.
The food is secondary. They're here for the history. We're the most unique architecturally in all of North America. People need to know that.
And the wineries, I see, Ron.
Well, that can't hurt.
Especially after about 3 glasses, it doesn't hurt.
Bob mentioned the Saturdays in St. Jen program, and up until this point, we've been having people like dress up and walk around and hand out information so they can see people in the colonial attire. And we've had some musicians and we've had some demonstrators, but this kind of a thing would build that up and flesh it out. When we were in Quebec on a tour, they had those push carts, kind of looks like a very large wheelbarrow, and they had like activities laid out in there, and they would like be on a corner and then do some push cart activities there. You know, maybe it was pen and ink kind of things, maybe it was, you know, sorting or quilting or something. But then they moved to a different corner, and so you see them throughout. And if you only had to do it one Saturday, and somebody else did an activity the next Saturday, it wouldn't put too much burden on anyone, really.
And the word of mouth will spread, especially with parents and the homeschool groups. Hey, I went down there this weekend and they were doing this, and word of mouth will just start spreading, and then they'll start coming. Because nowadays kids have to be engaged. They're all over the place. They're bouncing off the walls. They're not just going to read a book or read a plaque or sit and watch a 10-minute video. They have to be engaged or they're not interested.
I'm glad we worked that way when we were kids.
So, Candy, Donna?
I'll do it. I mean, we're already kind of starting that. This,
Right.
During the chocolate walk, Melissa's gonna be demonstrating how you get the chocolate out of the Philippines. So it's gonna
That's
sound
really
like
gonna be
chocolate
cool.
all down.
And I'll help her.
And foodways is a whole effort.
Yeah. Another whole-
Melissa-
yeah.
Kids and
Melissa's
food, you put those together.
Yeah.
Adults and food. Heck with kids.
There you go again.
I know. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to just be kids. I mean, adults, like you said, are just big kids. I know I am.
Okay.
So,
So,
how many committees have we started tonight?
what a few.
How many am I
You're
on?
more than
She started it. I started it. I did.
Okay,
You'll have to remind me what all I'm supposed to be doing.
okay. All right, I think that covered the gamut.
Okay, well, these are ideas that are just gonna bounce around up here for a while.
Uh-huh.
But we do need to flesh some of them out.
Well, the museum, they should be able to do hand-drawn at least. like-
There is, that's tantamount to the museum, and the name, it's a learning center.
Mhm.
It's-
And if they,
The intent is that is gonna be a big part of the museum, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll go there and do that.
So we'll just put them on the committee so we can work together and.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
We need as many people on the same page around here as we possibly can get anyway.
Nothing.
Well, I know you get so many committees that.
Okay, what else do we have? We've covered the agenda. We've covered some new business. We've talked about, the bicentennial. You know, does anyone have anything else to bring to the table? If not, the meeting will stand adjourned.